Hello YouTube, welcome to Curious Me channel. This is Shabazz Khan, and in this video we will learn about controllers. And this video is continuation from our previous videos, link to which is in description and also in tabs. Now let's have a look at this diagram which we discussed in our MVC overview video. And in this video we said that controller handles our request, okay, and the controller builds our model, and controller chooses a view, and that view uses the model built by controller to render the HTML to the user. Okay, so this is the simple flow. We already discussed this model. Now today we will discuss about this controller. Now to discuss about this controller, let me open our application. Okay, now let's explore this code before we start exploring with the help of a URL. So as you can see, this is our home controller. Okay, now what makes this class? Actually, controller is nothing but a class, but what makes this class a controller? The thing that makes this a controller is that you have to inherit from this class, controller class, which is under Microsoft ASP .NET Core.MVC.Controller. Okay, that is the first thing. And another thing is you have to prefix all your controllers with a controller tag in the end. So that is kind of mandatory. And all your controllers reside inside your controllers folder in an MVC application. Okay, so these are a few things that makes a controller a controller. Now a controller has many actions inside of it, which helps a controller handle a request or a URL. So as you can see here, we have one index action, we have one privacy action, and we have one error action. Okay, and the job of these actions is to actually respond to the request that we get. Okay, so this is a very simple example of what a controller looks like. Now let's open this and the browser side by side. Yeah, so as you can see, we are currently on the home page and this is our home controller. So now if I want to go to this privacy, I click on this privacy and you can see that this route changes. Okay, now in this route you can see that we are saying, oh, take me to home controller and execute privacy action. So this is what happens. Our code goes inside this home controller and then returns this view. Okay, this is what is happening here. Now you can return whatever you want from a controller. You can return a string just like we were doing in our previous video. You can return a view, but since we are using MVC, more frequently we will be returning views. Now let us quickly create a controller. So let me quickly open this. Now to create a controller, I'll just write the name of the entity that I want to create a controller for, and then followed by controller.cs. Okay. Now inside this, just like I told you, I'll copy this namespace. Okay. Let me just quickly copy this. Now I copied this namespace. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll write the name of the class, public class, and the class name should be also the same as the entity name followed by controller. Okay, now this should inherit from controller class, and this controller class is inside Microsoft.ASP NET Core.MVC. Now your controller is ready, but right now your controller is vacant. It will do nothing. Okay, now in order to use your controller, in order to do or handle some action, you need to write action. So let's go ahead and yeah, let's write this. Okay, simple. Now basically what I'm telling, now let's copy this as well. For now, let me write this private read only. Okay, now I have written the code, and let's explore this piece of code what I have written here. So I have created a class block controller, and this block controller inherits from a controller class, which is again present in this ASP.NET Core.MVC. Okay, now I'm doing a dependency injection to inject this blog repository, and as you know from our previous video what this does, you can go and check that out. Link is in description down below. So once we have injected this, we have created one action. Now the action name is index. We'll change it, and now this action is returning a view. Okay, now this I action result is a very nice thing. I action result will actually do content negotiation for you. Okay. Now what is content negotiation we'll discuss in upcoming videos. But if the request is asking for JSON, this will automatically give JSON. If the request is asking for XML, this will give XML. If the request is asking for a plain text, this method will give plain text as a response. You don't have to worry about it. This will be taken care of by this controller, or sorry, this action itself. Okay, so that's why we have written iAction result, which helps us in content negotiation. Anyways, for now, let me comment this out and I'll tell you why. Now let me quickly uncomment this, and let's use this blog repository, save this, and done. We have created wait, not iAction result, I'll return string, because we can return iAction result, but we'll do it. Let's see what can we do. So this is done. Okay, basically we have created a new controller. We called it block controller. Okay, and that block controller on its index method will return us the title of the blog that we are trying to access. That's it. Let's save this. Let's open our file. Let me stop this and rerun our application. Let's just type in .NET run. Okay, our application has started. Let me open our browser. Okay, let me refresh this and nothing will happen. Why? Because we are going to this home privacy. Now, if you remember, let me open them side by side. Now, if you remember, to go to this blog controller, I'll have to type in here blog. Okay, and to get to this action index, I'll have to write here index. Simple. And you can see we are getting a second block. So this is controller, simple, straightforward. Now let's see what else a controller can do. Basically a controller will build a model. So right now we are simply returning this model, right? Let me quickly show you. If I write here blog post, okay, just give me a minute. Let me expand this. Okay, so basically, as you can see, the first thing that a controller does is build a model with data. Okay, so we are doing this here using a blog repository that we created in our models video. So our model creation is done and we have our model here, blog. Okay, next thing the controller does, let me show you with the help of an example. As you can see, this controller builds the model, and then this controller selects the view, okay, and passes the model, or the view uses the model to display the HTML. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's head back to our application. Here you can see our model creation is done. Okay, now let's go and return some view. Now this view, how will this view use our blog? So I can simply pass this as a parameter for now. Okay, let me save this. And this is showing that you are trying to return a view, but your return type is string. Okay, now to return a view, you can write view result. Okay, that will work. Or if you want to return anything, just write iAction result. That is it. It will return everything. It will take care of the content negotiation itself. Okay, done. So let's go ahead and run this application and see what happens. Let's run this .NET run. Okay, our application is running. Let's open our browser. Here's the browser, and let me refresh this. We got an error. Why did we get an error? So as you can see, even though we are returning a view, okay, from the index, we are doing everything, but right now we haven't defined a view for our action method. Okay, we have the controller in place, we have the model in place, but we have not yet worked on our view. So we'll discuss views in our next video. Okay, so to keep things separate. For now, let's revise what we have learned. Okay, so for revision, we just created a controller called block controller, which is inheriting from our MVC class, which is named controller. Okay, once our controller is ready, we created our action, or we can create many actions inside a controller. So once that action is done, that action is responsible for creating our model and then returning our view. So let's check out the diagram. Now, as you can see in this diagram, our controller part is done. a model part is done. Okay, basically we created a controller which builds the model, which selects the view. Okay, and this we uses the model created by this controller to render the HTML and give it to us. Okay, so keep this in mind, and let's revisit this again. And you can see that we have our controller in place, we have our action in place, and we are building the model. Right now view is missing, which we will discuss in a next video. Okay, so now that we revised what our controller is, let us quickly revisit the startup file, and let's have a quick look at our route template. So by convention, what we have by default, what we are saying is always have a controller name and followed by our action name and then followed by a parameter, which is optional. So this, now I think you can understand this after like viewing our controller and action, and after knowing what is an action and what is a controller. So basically what we say is after the host name, let me open them side by side again. So now I think you can understand here by looking at this is, let me close this side panel. Okay, Control B, by the way, to close the side panel. So this this pattern matches this. Okay, how can we see? So this is our host name. Okay, after this host name, what we have is we have our action. We have our controller name, which is blog, but which is in our template, and this is default. Okay, so if you don't have anything here, so it defaults to home and index. Okay, but if you have something, it should be in this order. Like first name should be the controller name without the controller part, and then the action name. Okay, so this will directly take you to the controller and the action. So this is a very quick review of this template. We'll discuss routing in detail in our upcoming videos. So yeah, so that's it for this controller. Let's discuss views in our next video, and have a great day ahead. Bye bye, see you.